Hello friends, I'm Heather Morjo and I am doing the Silva Ultramind 28-day quest with the MindValley program. And this was a scholarship that was given to me, so I'm doing vlogs of my journey just so I can give back for them giving me this opportunity to study this program. It's been amazing. I'm way behind on my videos. So I did the introduction, day 1, 2, 3, 4, and now I am on, today I am just about to start doing day 10, 11. And so there's quite a few days that need to be caught up. So I hope you'll bear with me. This video will be a little bit longer because we're going to go through at least 4 days. So the 5th day was a projection into a house. So if you haven't been following, the Silva Ultramind system is remote viewing. Remote viewing has actually been studied by the American and Canadian governments for sure, and possibly other places in the world, and did find it to be somewhat effective. So not effective enough that they officially have said, yes, we have remote viewing teams that are doing the work of, say, drones to identify where things are. However, they did find positive results with a number of the remote viewing people that they were training and working with. So the first remote viewing exercise we get to do was projecting into our own home. So I'm jumping ahead. Nope, I'm good. So projecting into our own home, so we came through a visualization exercise which took us into our home, changed the colors of the wall, paid attention to like the density of the wall, the sounds, the taste, the smell, just paying attention to our senses in remote viewing projection. So some people might call this your astral body because it's actually not your physical body. And so they talked about like some of the spiritual principles of going into the remote viewing and ethical parts of that. And what I found super interesting was when you are in this world, in the third dimension, right, fourth dimension, the past or the future is directly ahead of you. The present moment is exactly where you are, and the past is behind you. Okay, but what Jose Silva actually discovered was when he was taking people through visualization exercises, the present was exactly where you are, but the past is to the left and the future is to the right. So when he would project people to go look at something in the past or project people to go look at something in the future, they would lean to those directions. So I found that super interesting, you know, because directions, just like time, are something that we experience in a linear fashion, only because we're in a third dimensional body. So day 6 was talking more about like the ethics of using this. So, I mean, the military was using this remote viewing to detect where bombs were and, you know, trying espionage on different nations to see what they were up to. Jose Silva developed his program with specific key indicators in the meditations that say you will use this in a world-centered or a cosmocentrism, sorry, I'll try that again, in a cosmocentrism view. So what is cosmocentrism? You've got self-centered, which is like people who are very focused on their own reality, on their own life. They can actually like hurt others for their benefit because they are focused on their own existence. You've got other-centered, which are people who are like focused on the people in their immediate surroundings and helping people within their own capacity. Then you've got world-centric people. This is about 30% of humanity, and they are focused on the bigger picture of how they impact the world. So an example of this that popped into my mind was, you know, paying attention to what materials you purchase, right? Because if something is made of plastic, it might run the risk of contaminating the water through microplastics, right? And microplastics being an oil-based product don't decompose, right? Cosmocentrism is like the objective that we're aiming for in the long distance. On day 7, we talked about the compass and the rocket. So the compass is our spirit, and the rocket is our body and our mind, okay? And the question that Vishen asked us, which was so profound to me, was, what experience does your soul seek to have? Wow. You know, because you have to ask yourself, how many of your goals are there because society told you you should, or you must, or this is what's expected of you? How many goals do you have do I have in my life because that was imposed on me by society, right? Like as a woman, one of the goals that was regularly taught to me from many different sources growing up is I should want to get married, get a career, have children, right? That was like the mantra for my life because I am female and have a uterus and should be procreating and want to wedding, right? And the truth is my soul doesn't need those things. You know, I'd like a party every once in a while, but I don't need to get married to have a party, right? You know, and so I had to like really like look at like what did I want for my soul's goal, right? What soul goal? I love that. You know, and what is aligned with my path in life. So this comes from the theory that each soul comes to earth with a path, with an intention for what they hope to accomplish while they're on earth. And the intuition which guides us towards that. So we had to do on day 7 a new problem for our mental video, or the same problem. So my first problem that I was addressing was my physical health, right? I have some goals that I want to achieve, weight loss goals, health goals, fitness goals, and that was my first visualization with the mental screen to try and imagine what the solution could be. And then I started writing down a new goal. I said, well, you know, I'd really like to overcome mental obstacles, because it's not just about my body, right? My goal is not just about being able to wake up every morning and exercise every morning and to eat healthy every day and to reject sugary foods every day. My goal is to overcome the mental obstacles which prevent me from taking on healthy new behaviors. Okay, so it could be wanting to schedule my day better. I have a mental block which tells me that scheduling things is a colonial construct that maintain our life in a type of order and control that can be oppressive to a creative spirit, to a free spirit, right? So I have a mental block against daytimers, right? And I've had it all my life. I've got so many daytimers that I get to like March and that's the end of it. And they don't get any further than that. Maybe except for in like September when I pick it up again, but they don't get very far. So, but I couldn't find a way to visualize removing mental blocks. I tried Googling it and then looking at the images to see if there was like pictures, graphics that would help, but then nothing really jumped out at me, right? So, yeah, and then moving on to day 8, we talked a little bit about how the intuitive spirit or intuition speaks to us. So we talked about clairvoyance, which is seeing impressions of intuition. We talked about clairessence, which is that feeling in the gut, right? That's like a sensation of like, maybe you get a sensation of turn your head this way when you need to look and see something that you need to see. Clairaudience is hearing either spirit or impressions, or the example he gave is that he heard like a audible voice that told him to pay attention while he was driving that prevented an accident. Vishen said this. And gave us the task, you know, and just asked us to pay attention to like which is our more predominant intuitive tendency, right? So I had to kind of think about that and, you know, how does my intuition speak to me? And that's a very complex question that I'm not going to get into on video. I would love to be able to have, spiritual people in my life that I can talk to honestly and frankly about that, but there's like 2 people that I feel comfortable enough talking about that with that right now. Then gave us the homework task of getting 4 pieces of metal. So then that moves us to day 9. On day 9, we had to find 4 pieces of metal. So one was stainless steel. So I got this spoon. The next one was a piece of copper, and I actually found this. So this is actually very special to me. When I was in Toronto at George Brown College attending their jewelry arts program, I got to learn how to raise metal, which means that this was originally like a flat disc of copper, and I hammered it to raise it. And that was, this was made from a flat piece of copper, and it's really beautiful. I wish it had a little bit more of a echo, but it is it's gorgeous. It's magical, this bowl. I love it. Anyway, and then aluminum and brass. So for brass, I used the doorknob, and for aluminum, I just crumpled up a piece of aluminum, which will get recycled. And then the projection was into each of these metals. So they asked us, what does the light inside, so projecting inside the metal along with the atomic structure of it, what does the light inside the metal look like? What does the smell like? What is the texture when you knock on the side of the atoms? And temperature. Yeah, so what does it feel like inside the metal in conjunction with the other pieces? So I'm just going to start another video and talk really briefly about what I experienced. So for my metal projection within the stainless steel, the light, so what I could see, was very bright. So this gave me the impression that the molecules were actually really far apart, and the light could pass right through the spoon. It smelled really, no smell. There was no smell. The temperature felt bland. I don't know what that means. It's just, that was the first word that came to my mind. And the texture was super hard. Many super small crystals refracting light throughout. And then really, when I knocked on it, it was very like hard and loud. And then the copper inside, when I projected my consciousness into the molecular structure of the copper, it was very dark inside. It was very dense. There was no light passing through it the way there was with the stainless steel. It smelled kind of moist, kind of almost musky. The temperature was very warm, and the texture was soft like butter. So when I was inside and I knocked, it was nothing. There was no echo, no nothing. The aluminum was very dark inside the aluminum, and it smelled really sterile, almost like bleach. And the temperature was very cold. It was colder, the coldest of the 4 metals. And the texture was hard but dull, so it kind of sounded like tinkling glass hitting the floor when I knocked on it. It was like tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. And then brass, which was the doorknob, was very dark and dense, and it smelled, again, kind of like a musky smell. Not great. And then the temperature, again, was very cool, not as cold as the aluminum. And the texture was hard, and it sounded like a bell, like bing, 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 and it echoed when I knocked on the inside. So, I mean, there's a couple things that I keep in mind with this projection exercise. One, I'm trained in metals. I understand a lot about the atomic structure of metals, how the structure of a hammered piece of metal versus a rolled piece of metal versus a cast piece of metal are going to interact. So I think that may have played into some of my awareness of the textures and everything, but I really tried to go into it with like my intuition as my primary guide instead of my education. But that doesn't discount the fact that that education is in my subconscious because I've studied it for so long. Yeah, so that was my day 9 experiment with projection into metals, and I look forward to giving you day 10. Thanks.